Yeah. Woo.
There he is.
There he is.
Man, the myth, the legend.
We meet again, Mr. Kip. How are you, sir?
What's up, Chris? How you doing?
Well, in Chris's position here tonight, Kip, is our good friend
Erik.
Seth. Right.
Hey, wait a minute. Why didn't you guys play the new song?
Because that's what Chris told me to play. So that's what that's how Chris rolls. He's going to tell me what to do and then have it all wrong.
I'll tell you what I wanted to hear was
hey, Erik. Where's your guitar, dude?
I got lots of guitars around, dude. Where's your guitar?
You should be playing that thing while you're on here.
I got a picture of me playing, I think, Janie Lane's guitar, and I'm sitting in a room with you, and this dates back probably 18 years now. This was for the VH1 Stripped tour, where you, Stephen Pearcy, Don Dokken, the whole Firehouse band. Yeah, and then, of course, how can we forget the guy who terrorized us the whole time, our deceased buddy, Janie Lane. What a nutty... Do you remember any of that, or did you block it out?
Oh, no, hell yeah. I totally remember. That was... how could I forget? That was. I think he was at one of his lowest points, unfortunately. Poor guy.
It got progressively worse as the tour went on. I mean, for me...
They almost threw him off the bus.
Well, he got thrown off the bus. I remember we had a secondary vehicle that all the road crew was on. And I think it took about 3 days before all of a sudden he was on that. He had pretty much run through and terrorized him. He started out really nice. I remember at first he had a really nice, I think, Taylor acoustic guitar, and I had a really shitty guitar. I was not ready to play. Excuse me. I was not ready to play this thing. We had just got off the Wasp tour. I was more a rock band guy. I didn't even, I think, own an acoustic at the time, and I had to scrunch one up for this thing. And I got some Epiphone crappy acoustic that could hardly stay in tune. And Janie had this super sweet Taylor guitar, and he was like, "Hey, you can play my guitar if you want." And he was very friendly at first, and I think he might have been sober when he first got on this thing, but he fell off the wagon real quick, and then he just one by one just terrorized every one of us. I think he also might have robbed our friend Don Dokken of some very expensive booze one night. There were some crazy antics, but they threw him off the bus, and he ended up having to follow us, and it just got worse from there. But what a Spinal Tappy weird thing. Was that the first time you were ever on a tour like that, where you were on the same bus as these other 80s?
Yes. The first and the last. I had fun on that. I mean, we did some fun shit on that tour, and there were some decent shows and stuff. But yeah, he was causing a lot of problems.
You are a consummate professional, though. I would say at the time, I mean, you and Don were fantastic, as well as Firehouse. It wasn't really, acoustic shows weren't really Pearcy's wheelhouse. He does better with the full rock band behind him. And this was a weird thing for us to go up there and not have drums, but you seemed very comfortable. You had, I would assume, had been doing acoustic performances leading up to that, because you would do songs like Miles Away, and it was it would elicit, emotion from everyone. It was just very passionate, and it was amazing to behold. And this was actually right before YouTube. This is 2006. So YouTube, there isn't much video of this out there, but I remember you being professional the whole time and killing it. But then you had the rest of us that were a mess. Janie Pearcy and me and Frankie out there.
I actually started my acoustic thing in 1996 because during the grunge era, it was the only gig I could get. And so I would go out when I did my first solo album, This Conversation Seems Like a Dream. I went out and did about 40 border bookstores. And it was 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and there'd be 10 people in the bookstore. And that was the only gig I could get at the time. And so I was one of the first guys that just wielded my acoustic and said, well, it was a huge fall from grace. And I just started there one by one, just kind of did it. I still do my acoustic show to this day. I mean, I enjoy it a lot, actually. especially when I have my percussionists with me. It's God, now it's been years and years now, but anyway, so yeah, it's fun.
Some kind of groove underneath, or possibly some people use backing tracks. But when I know what you're talking about, it was a rough ride, like the early 2000s. Things were not good, and then after the station fire and the DC sniper, it was tough, man, for the 80s rock bands. But you know, great bands die hard, and the fans, rock fans, are so loyal, and they did come back around. Like, we can't live without these guys. You know, next thing you know, all our bands are back out playing festivals again. And
absolutely, yeah, no, we're doing great now. I mean, so it's been really good.
Now, how about how did you survive the pandemic? Tell us about that.
I mean, for musicians, I don't think it was much different, right? I mean, we couldn't do as much, and the streets were empty. As like, so you know, I live in Nashville and I live downtown, so it was like weird to see like just completely empty, and because it's usually just slamming down there. But I mean, I work from home anyway, so you know, for me, it wasn't really that different. Okay, it was different, but not like it didn't destroy my life like it did a lot of people. I mean, I think it really screwed the world up in a bad way, and travel became awful. I remember when wearing a mask on a plane was like, oh, are you kidding me? I don't want to wear a mask. Right. And then it just became second nature. But like I say, I work at home. So, I mean, we started this new album right before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit. And so it was like, it set us back quite a bit. But when I could finally get Reb to come to Nashville, even during the pandemic, we wrote through it, as did most bands. I think, you know, that's why you're seeing a lot of new albums coming out now.
What's it like recording in Nashville as opposed to like back in the heyday? Does that sound pretty cool, or what?
Recording in Nashville, yeah.
So, well, I do everything in my own studio. Like, I've had my own studio since 1996. So I learned real quick that I didn't want to pay the bills of everybody else's studio. And I'm also quite the gear.
And he's gone.
Did we lose Kip there?
We did. We did lose Kip.
Uh-oh. So, well, hopefully, Kip, if you're listening, you can call back and we'll pop him back in as soon as he does. I was just getting into that. I was like, go on, Kip.
He's dreamy. He's good looking, man.
I'm getting lost in your eyes, Kip. Go on.
What happened?
Oh, there he is.
I was right in mid-sentence. I've been buying and selling gear for 20 years, you know, more than that. And I've got very nice recording gear. I don't have a lot of it because I bought and sold myself right down to the bare essentials for what I think are good.
Sure.
So to answer your question, there's a lot of fantastic studios in Nashville, like the top drawer stuff, all levels, the very highest ones you can get next to Abbey Road, all the way down to, you know, Junior's backyard. And, you know, and the thing about Nashville is that it's, you know, big country town, and people write songs nonstop. And so they're cranking out 250 demos a day or whatever, you know.
It's insane.
It's insane. Having said that, a lot of it sounds quite cookie cutter. Some of it's incredible, but to answer your question, I mean, for me, it's no different than working anywhere else I have, because it's all in my own space, you know. So,
right. You have time to really explore too, right, Kip? I mean, some of these tracks on this new album, which, by the way, the album is called 7, and the release date is going to be May 5th. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. There's some kick-ass songs for the old Winger fans. Plus, you know, you guys have grown as songwriters as well. But I'll tell you, the last track on there stuck with me, and this is like an opus that you have. This song's like 7 minutes long, but all comes back around, and it's a beautifully complex song where it's almost like you wanted to get the respect of these Nashville, you know, people there. You went the extra distance with this track, so I wanted to commend you.
That's actually my favorite song on the record. It's kind of like headed for a heartbreak number 2, but I didn't intentionally do that. It was kind of by accident. and actually, I wrote that song myself. I wrote Headed for Heartbreak myself too, but it wasn't unintentional. It was like I had the keyboard riff and Reb, Reb would come and go, and I would keep working on stuff as we were writing, and I just fell upon that idea by accident. And I say this in every interview I do. All great ideas happen by accident. You can't try to craft a great idea. It's always like crafting stuff and fumbling through the darkness, and then bang, you get hit by lightning by accident because your coffee spilled on your keyboard and you went to wipe it and hit exactly the right note that you were looking for, or something like that. But and that's how that song was born. And it's got kind of an orchestral middle eight and then a big long ending for the solo, because traditionally on Winger albums we do a long ending on one song so Reb can just do what he does, And,
sure. Now you're a rock guy. You've always been, and the influences are there too. I mean, there's a little bit of AC/DC on some of the tracks, a little bit of Kiss sound songs, and actually, I don't know if you would agree with this or not, but one of my favorite bands, Rainbow. There's a song, Stick the Knife In and Twist. To me, it has kind of a Death Alley Driver kind of vibe.
It does.
Which I love that track.
It does.
Okay, I don't know if that was intentional or not.
No, it wasn't, but you're right. I mean, I wouldn't have thought of that, but it definitely does. I couldn't remember. It's kind of, especially when you get to the verse, it's like, yeah, totally.
Well, in rock music, there's a lot of songs that are similar to others. There's only 7 notes. You know what I mean? Some of these rock progressions are similar or could work over other ones and so forth. But I thought the record, I was very impressed with it. I mean, the consistency of it. And I definitely highly recommend all 80s rock people pick this up. And especially the Winger fans are going to love it for sure. And like you said, you have some old school songs. Broken Glass is another vibey track. Tell us a little bit about that one.
It's a very interesting song, relationship song. The interesting part of that song is that Paul Taylor, and by the way, it's all original members on this album, and every guy played on every song. So the recipe of the band is all in every track. But on Broken Glass, Paul Taylor actually played the guitar solo.
Wow.
Which is something that he's never done on a Winger album before. And he's a great lead player. So I was thinking, well, let's get Paul on here to play a solo. And he did an awesome job. And that one was one of the first songs we wrote from musically. We had the chorus. We were, kind of pounding out the chorus. And Reb, I think, wrote the chorus melody in octaves on his guitar. And I just kind of started singing along with it. And then Reb went home, and then, it's always kind of like Reb and I start something. We'll do a riff, we'll arrange the stuff, and then I'm always left to finish a lot of the stuff. But
do you guys do it together or all the time, or is it more like he's in his studio at home and just you bounce stuff back and forth to each other?
No, I refuse to do that. I can't work like that. I think, the only time I work like that is, for example, when I did a She Said thing for COVID with Mike Portnoy and Andy Timmons and Jeff Scott Soto, where we're all phoning in our tracks and stuff. But when it comes to something so high stakes, I mean, I've got a definite way I want to hear stuff. So I want to be able to sit with the musician, not tell them what to do, but Reb and I have a kind of a simpatico that way. He knows. And we trust each other, and that's really key. He'll be playing, I'll be like, fix that one thing right there. And I don't want to have to do that, but you can't really do that long distance. I mean, it's all like very visceral. We're in the moment. We don't make demos. If we come up with the riff and the track, we cut it right there. I said, before we write one note, I set up all the tones, guitar sound, like made for the album guitar song before we write note 1. I've actually never said that in an interview. That's the first time.
Now, do you model certain amps that you've owned, and that's how you got these tones, or how do you go about getting the tones for this record?
No, that's Reb's guitar going through a John Suhr custom audio head through a 66 reissue Marshall slant cabinet with greenbacks, and the microphone is a Shure KSM 32 into a Neve 1272 preamp right into Pro Tools.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't model anything. I don't do any of that modeling stuff.
Right.
Maybe I should. I don't look down on it.
It's not all the way there yet. I do it for solos. That's it.
Thank you. I can hear the difference. A lot of people can't. Some people can. It's great for live because you don't have to worry about what amp you're getting that night. Although we're so old school, dude. We still rent gear when we play live. It's like a gamble on which Marshall we're gonna get.
I asked for a Marshall 900 and hope for the best, man. I have my 4 Boss pedals I bring, and I do a 4 cable method, and boom, boom. That's it.
Right.
Hey, Kip, I got a question for you. What do you think about the state of rock radio anymore? I live in Cleveland, Ohio. It's supposedly the rock and roll capital of the world, and yet the rock radio sucks around here. And I don't know if it's any better across the country. I mean, rock radio needs to pick up bands like you guys again to start playing this shit.
That would be awesome, but I don't see that happening. It would be great if, especially, I mean, I feel like Proud Desperado is totally worthy of radio play, but stuff, I'm totally out of touch with it. So I'm not really qualified to talk about that because, I got a lot to say about the things I know about and not much to say about the things I don't. And that's one of them. I don't know what's on the radio these days. Everybody always quotes me like, well, you're not going to get on the radio with Five Finger Death Punch. So I guess they're on the radio. I don't know. But
with Sirius Radio though, I mean, you're on Eddie Trunk's show and all the 80s stuff on XM.
Yeah,
right?
I just wish there was more commercial play for bands that are good, and I don't think it gets enough commercial play. I mean, maybe that's not what people want anymore, but I want it, and I think there's a big audience for it. And I just think the state of rock music needs to come back to what it was.
Well, I'm with you. The problem is that this is also generational, and we're in this group with certain mentality, and there's a whole nother faction that's like listening to Falling in Reverse, and it has nothing to do with what we do.
What's even weirder, Kip, that trips me out is when you consider how much time had gone from the big band of the 40s to like when Winger was on MTV, like how much of a duration of time that was, and then move that there's been that much time between the 80s and now, in a sense, that it's just weird God. That
that's a bizarre realization.
It is, but it did slow down. It's cyclical. Some music's cyclical, but and therefore it kind of doesn't. It's not a straight shot of transformation. But there's been a lot of time since Piercy and Winger and you have debuted, enough time that it's similar to that musically, duration wise, of years. But
that's amazing. Yeah,
it's all been done pretty much. But we got to see if it morphs into something else. I've mentioned before on past episodes that I see a lot of young kids starting to play guitar because of YouTube. What a great teacher YouTube is that we never had growing up. You either were able to afford to go to GIT to learn how to shred, or you didn't, and now kids are getting some amazing, guitar lessons. So I am expecting a new generation of guitarists to come up, and rock music to come back around again, because I think kids are realizing that they're being ripped off, that a lot of this hip hop music and so forth is just very inexpensive to produce, and that's why it's pushed on
that's
kids.
Really interesting that you say that they use that adjective, inexpensive. That's a really interesting way to think about it. I have to think about that to give you my answer.
Well, it's when you think back of the 80s recordings, like I heard from Steven, you know, what some of the budgets were for Rat going in, and it was astronomical, you know, where today you can achieve so much more with your equipment in your studio there than what they had at the time. They literally spent probably $1 million to make any one of those records back then. And that was with everything involved, probably, you know, the producing, everybody that's got a hand in it. But you've streamlined things to this point where, am I wrong in saying that this Winger album's completely self-produced?
Totally. Yeah, no, but every Winger album's been self-produced. But the early days with Atlantic, our budget was 125 grand. That's what we spent on our first album. The second album was maybe 200, and the third album might have been 300 because that's the way our deal went. And that was because the studios back then, with you know, needing the technology, you had to pay, you know, anywhere between $1,200 to $2,000 a day or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd be in there 6 months, and, you know, it adds up fast. And then the producer fee and the whatever, all the crap. And then as technology, you know, has become what it is, it's like, you know, you can go, I don't know. I mean, you can do it all in, I know a little, I know a friend of mine in Istanbul whose son does everything in GarageBand, and it sounds better than anything I do. And I don't know how he does it. I mean, he programs all his own plugins, and he's a little genius. But so, and I have a lot of really good gear that might, if it was like a commercial studio, might cost, you know, I don't know, a couple hundred a day. I don't know what, but
sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot cheaper and it's a lot easier to do it yourself. The one thing I would say about all of this stuff is none of it matters if you can't connect an emotion. Even, you know, if it's R&B or if it's heavy metal or if it's just plain up straight up rock or pop or whatever it is, like how it's made doesn't really mean anything. It's all about the end result, which is the emotion of the music. Like, even if it's intellectually incredible and it doesn't make you feel anything, it's still not successful, in my opinion. Like, if the only successful music is that you know, can evoke a strong emotion, really, you know, like whether it's, oh, this makes me feel cool, or, oh, I feel very sad when I love this song, it makes me feel happy, just something about how it's affecting you. And I think, you know, our generation, we look at other music and we go, oh, I don't get it. But I mean, people get it. You know, it's all about how you're connecting, and the R&B culture. Like, I can't totally relate, but I have listened to a lot of it where I'm like kind of blown away by the production. You know, it's like, and sure. I feel something from it. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. How did they do that? You know, and
they all have really big choruses, and you were right in there on your new record with making sure that the catchiness of your choruses were clearly important, where you wanted to have that, I don't want to say marketability, but just to be, like you said, to be able to connect with people in that sense.
I'm old school songwriter. I mean, the song has to go like this, and hit you when it hits you at the chorus, it's got to take off, you know. Mm-hmm. So I'm just following in the footsteps of those who have come before me, you know.
We did a great job of it. Now, you know what we need to talk about here, because as you can see the ship in the background, Stephen Pearcy has just been added to the Monsters of Rock cruise that I know you're going to be on.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a little terrified of this. I've never been on a cruise in my life. So I thought you could tell me and Seth a little bit about your past experiences. Have you done the Monsters of Rock cruise before this?
Yeah, many times. And I was like you at the beginning. I was like, not into it. Like, sat in my cabin, you know, moping for the first couple days. Like, you know, and it was like, you know, it was the reverse of Darth Vader. It was like, give into your love. You know, I was like, what's not to like? You're out on the ocean, the sun's shining, the food's great, and like, you know.
Have they always hooked you up with like a good suite kind of deal, or you're not in a bunk bed with Reb, right?
No. I mean, we all get our own rooms. I mean, it's
Do you
great.
get a little port window to like?
No. We get the balconies, but
Nice, where you can like go out and actually sit on the balcony.
yeah, sure, yeah, sure.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that looks pretty dope. I did watch like on YouTube, they have some Monsters of Rock cruise videos on there from the past years. So I was
Yeah.
trying to kind of get a feel. But one thing I noticed that was like made me feel a little uneasy. And now I'm not as anywhere near the fame of you and the other headliners on there. But I saw Sebastian Bach, and I noticed like people were going up and like, tapping him. He was at the bar, like trying to get a drink, and just these constant like fingers of people, hey, and he was like kind of ignoring them. And I don't know, man, you got to be in the right frame of mind to be around those fans, right?
Well, I mean, you just, they're who put you there. So, I mean, I don't mind hanging with the fans. You just know that if you go down into general pop, you're just going to be taking photos and hanging with the people that put you there. And I don't mind it at all, actually. You
keep telling yourself that.
I'm pretty well known for like the guy that hangs the most out in the, going to see other bands and doing events and stuff like that, because it's like, people dig it, it's fun. I'm a huge fan of the cruises. I'm loyal to the Monsters of Rock cruise. We've been offered a bunch of other cruises,
right?
And I'm really loyal to the Monsters of Rock cruise because it's really like it's a real rock cruise. There's no like other style music on there, and it's it's kind of everybody's in the same frame of mind, and there's a lot of great other acts and stuff, and
this got me out of the doghouse.
I love to gamble, so I'm always on the casino. But I interrupted you. What did you say?
Oh, I was going to say this cruise got me out of the doghouse with my lady that I live with, because it's tough, being dating a musician and this, and we have our issues, as our viewers know. But when this cruise came up, and I was like, guess what? I'm taking you on a cruise, babe. This just absolved me of like all wrongdoings. Like, we have been getting along so good. She's so excited about this.
Yeah,
she's like,
but see, that would be like the worst though, man. That would be taking your girl on a cruise where there's girls
like taking sand to the beach
and the bikinis all over the place, all over the boat. I mean, that would be crazy.
She would make it miserable for me if she wasn't there. It's better that we're together on this, and
no,
this will go a long way. It's
not a hookup scene. It's a really, everybody's out. Most everyone has a partner, and it's just fun.
Right.
It's just like seeing these bands in different setting that you would never normally see them in, and the production's really high quality, and it's really well put together.
So would you say you got to correct me if I'm wrong? Like, as far as our bands go, we have to play like 2 different concerts or something like that during the 5 days.
This band does 2 shows. Yeah. And maybe you'll do a photo experience event or something like that.
Yeah.
Do another Playgirl.
No. Like where everybody gets their photo with you,
Back here in Cleveland, we used to have Monsters of Rock like concerts here at the Rubber Bowl in Akron. And tickets would be like $15, and you get the biggest bands in the world. I mean,
listen, Ohio rocks like no other state in the union. I'm telling you, every rock show I've ever done in Ohio just is like top notch fans. I mean, they just rock it, man.
I just miss concerts like that. I mean, the cruise sounds amazing, and I would love to be able to get on one of those cruises.
Well, that's what this is, Seth. This is Monsters of Rock. Put on a boat.
We need Monsters of Rock in stadiums again. Get you guys out and play in front of 70,000.
For me, it doesn't last long enough. I wish it was like 10 days.
Well, now you're getting me excited about it.
Yeah.
I got to make sure I'm mentally prepared for this, but it sounds like it's going to be a great time. Now, when you've done these before, it always goes like a different location every cruise, right? Has it always gone to the? I forgot what this one even is going, like off of Heyday or something.
I don't remember. Yeah, you guys, everybody has to look that up. You just go to the website, because I've been on so many of them, I can't keep track. But
they're different though, right? You've gone to like different spots for it as far as. And do you actually get off the ship too, or do you stay on there? Is that too sketchy?
Off. No, I get off. the first time I did it, I did not get off, but every time since I get off and go to the beach and get some food or buy some weird stuff. I don't know. Just I really, my dream life is. I used to live in Florida and I loved it. I like the Caribbean vibe.
Right.
You got a big tour coming up though, right? After the cruise, are you touring?
Tons of gigs. The whole year is filling up really fast because of this, the new album, and it's the 35th anniversary of the first album, and it's the 30th anniversary of our third album, which is a big favorite among Winger fans. This album, Pull, and the new album is kind of what I tried to do is like inject the inspiration of the first album with the musical intelligence of the third album. So it's really kind of a mixture of those two albums. We went back to the original logo. We got all the original guys. They played on every track. So it is a full circle event for us.
This is the most women we've ever had tuned into the show.
It's amazing.
Usually the Chris Akin Presents show is a total sword fight. I'm going to be honest. I've been counting over here while you've been talking, and they just keep coming one after the other, after the other.
Some of the comments, how do you know how many people are on here? Let's see. The comments kind of come up one at a time.
Yeah, that's me pushing. I'm pushing.
He's highlighting the ones that are less dirty, that are okay to put.
There's Carrie.
This is a children's show.
I'm sorry I came on early, Carrie. I've been on since 5:15.
Kip was excited to be on the Big Monsters of Rock. Actually, the last time I saw you was magical. It was at the Chris Angel birthday extra. Am I right? It was Chris Angel's birthday in Vegas.
Chris Angel. I mean, what a talk about a genuinely awesome sweetheart of a guy. Gee whiz.
He does amazing things for children's hospitals, and guy raised he raised a good amount of money, and then he just threw like an extra $1 out of his pocket, like right out there.
Unreal, man. He's really genuine. I mean, he's the real deal. He's I met him for the first time that night. He texts me all the time now. He's like, he's just
he loves rock, 80s stuff.
No, he's a great dude, man. Anyway, so that was a great honor to play at that thing. And there was our buddy Paul Stanley there, who I'm a huge fan of, and decided to get up and jam. And I had to follow him at that concert. It was like, uh-oh.
Well, for me, the most memorable thing was Robin Zander.
Oh yeah. Of course.
Okay. So he was super nice. That was the first time I had ever, actually like met him in person. He was very nice to me. And then at the end, he was kind of the headliner, if you will. And at some point the band's playing Surrender, and they bring out like all the performers that were there. I think even Flavor Flav might have been in attendance there. But somehow I ended up on a microphone with you, and we were like, your mama's all right, your dad is all right, and we were singing it together. I didn't even know that was going to happen, and I was like, I had to stay at Piercy's, and he lives in Vegas now. I don't. I live in San Diego, but I had to go stay at his house for that. We had just played a show, but instead of going home, I went to his house, and they had been taking good care of me, but they didn't feed me like dinner that night. They assumed there was going to be food there, and there was. And so I was like backstage eating nauseous. I don't know if I had like cheese breath or whatever bad breath when I was saying that.
I don't remember.
Okay, good. Because I know I was like, surrender, surrender. And I was like, oh shit, I hope I'm not breathing bad breath on Kip.
No, that's it's all good, man. I've had way worse. Trust me.
Okay, good.
Sometimes in my acoustic show, I bring random people up to sing Miles Away, and I always have a pack of gum there. Just before you sing. That's
you
funny
make them sing with the mask on.
A lot of guys move to Vegas. And I guess it's the place to go. I mean, I moved to Nashville in 2002, and since then it's become like a huge place for all the people to go. And it's San Diego. That's God's country. I mean, that's amazing.
Right. I live in Oceanside. Kip, you would not believe like where I'm living right now. I don't even know how this happened, but I'm in like this dope condo, living with this beautiful woman, like right on the strand at Oceanside here, and it's insane. I don't deserve it, but I'll take it.
Wow.
Man. That's
good for you. Hey,
Yeah.
what's the origin of your last name? Is it Greek?
That is Greek, yes.
Oh, there you go. Do you speak Greek? Yeah.
Tikanis, Kip.
Oh, right on, right on.
How about Winger? That's German, right?
Yeah, through and through.
Kip Winger, you will buy the new album and you will love it.
Get out!
Get out!
No, I have my great grandfathers all immigrated to Germany from Russia, and I'm reading the comment.
Oh, she said she danced with you in the '80s in Thunderdome in Baltimore.
Wow,
Ooh.
That's amazing. The Thunderdome.
That's right.
I remember that place. That was a great place. But yeah, my great grandfathers are Russian immigrants to Germany, so I have some Russian in me, which is always nice because the Russian composers are really the best. But the Russian and the French, in my opinion, Germans, everybody, references the German composers, but the Russians and the French, man.
How did you land on using the name for your name for the band name? Did you try other names first? Like, what were some alternate possible names you had?
It was totally by accident. We were Sahara.
Okay.
And that was that we couldn't be Sahara because somebody served us with a notice that they owned the name.
All right.
And,
yeah, that band's name sounds familiar to me.
And so we called the first album Sahara, and it's down there in the lower right hand side. You'll see it. But Atlantic didn't get that. They just called the album with the self-titled album by Winger. But we were at a time, and back then it was like, who could come up with a cool band name back then? Now there's a lot of cool band names, but somehow
it worked though, man. It's like Winger. I mean, it's like an Air Force jet or something, like a wing or of a jet or something.
Well, that's cool that you think so, because I always I never wanted the band to be named after me because it was a genuine band. I co-wrote all the songs with Reb, and we were like, it was like four guys doing a band, but it is
Reb got his due. I mean, anybody from then knows Reb's a top shredder from the Winger days and the videos, just doing phenomenal tap. There was already tapping from Van Halen, but Reb was one of the first guys that I remember doing multiple finger tapping on the solos. And he was really young too. How old were you guys when the first album came out?
I was pretty old. I was like 28. A lot of guys like Def Leppard and all those guys, they were rocking it at 19, and they're, and they all got record deals at a much earlier age. I was up there, and I started in a band with my two older brothers and did my first professional gig at 8. So by the time I was 28, I'd been doing it for 20 years, and I was thinking, geez, I wonder if I'm never going to make it,
Mm-hmm.
But
or you're not going to get in the 27 club because you were already.
Well, exactly. Knock on wood. I'm glad I'm not.
You're like, well, shit. Now I got to hang in there.
Yeah. I want to be in the 107 club.
Right. The older we get, the older we want to be. Isn't that right?
Last man standing, baby.
That's right. Well, you look great, Kip. You look great.
My wife thinks so, by the way. She has not stopped texting me throughout the entire interview about how great Kip looks.
Well, tell her thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
The ladies are excited today on the Chris.
Yeah, they are. Actually, we got a text from another woman who wanted to know any orchestras you'd like to work with or anything classical you got in the works.
Oh, yeah. There's the New York Phil, Berlin Philharmonic, LA Phil. Those would be incredible. High goal. That's a lofty goal for somebody like myself. I've been very fortunate in the classical world to get quite a few super high quality performances and commissions. It's been a very long road, but I've been, lucky. I got that Grammy nomination, and
congrats
for classical composition. Thank you. And so it's been it's been great. Having said that, you know, when you get a commission from a major orchestra, I'm working with Nashville Symphony right now, writing a violin concerto for them. And they premiered my first symphony last March. And they're making an album of my 2 pieces of my classical music on Naxos, which is actually the biggest classical label. So it's, you know, it's high stakes, man. I mean, the pressure's pretty intense, but and when you get a commission, it's like it can work against you, because it's like you have to live up to this thing, you know. And I work best when I just want to create something, because I have a very high bar internally anyway, and I'm a great self-editor. Like, I won't do anything. Thank you, Yasmin. I guess you saw Atonement was my first symphony. Thank you very much for saying that. And
you did just sell another record, so, you know, on our show we helped.
Yeah, thank you for pre-ordering. Yeah, anyway, the point is that the stakes are high. I work well on my own, but, you know, I've been lucky, and stuff's happening, and I managed to juggle both worlds pretty well, because one kind of feeds the other, you know, like the visceralness of being in a rock band and high-fiving the people in the front row, and then taking that energy and translating into a classical piece, and turning on a lot of people to classical music too, that they wouldn't have. Greetings from Brazil. Hi, how are you?
See, Kip knew where that was. I wouldn't even know what flag that is.
That flag, yeah. Yeah, one kind of feeds the other, you know. So it's
metal music has a lot of classical influence, actually. I mean, some classical pieces are very metal to me.
Sure.
You know, I mean,
you know, down, 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 down.
Totally. It was totally taken from that. But it is higher minded music, and it is cool to turn your average rock people onto classical stuff, for sure.
A lot of people that I turned onto it, they're like, oh my God, I never knew I could feel this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what happened to me. I was a kid, and I've told this story so many times. Most people that know me know this story, but I had a girlfriend that wanted to take ballet, and none of her girlfriends would take it with her. And so I was like, I'll do it. And that sounds fun, you know, because I was in karate and really stretched out, and I got into it, and I took to it. I just was like, oh my God, this is amazing. She quit immediately. And I just went on to, you know, I was in a company, and I was hearing this music going, oh my God, like, where did this come from? You know, and that's kind of set me off on that path. But
that's cool. For me, it was the Star Wars soundtrack in the 70s as a little kid. I'm 50, but, you know, hearing that was my like introduction to like a classical score, if you will. And
well, John Williams, yeah, I mean, John Williams is absolutely, I mean, he's one of the greatest living composers. I mean, beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, the guy's he's so heads and shoulders above so many other people. I mean, incredible. But thank you. By the way, you can pre-order our album on Amazon or iTunes or wherever. So it's coming out.
It's going to go platinum by the time the show's over.
I'm telling you.
That'd be great. We got a new single coming soon. Our first single was Proud Desperado. We got another single coming soon. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I can tell you that we've made 6 videos. And so it's going to be, you know, we'll be releasing a lot of stuff.
Shouldn't you have done 7 videos?
7 would have been better.
Good point. I wanted to say, Erik, that you mentioned there's 7 notes in the diatonic scale, but there is 12. 1,
That's
2,
right.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 notes.
Correct.
Depending upon how much kookiness you're going for, but it is to your point about 7 notes. The album title 7 has this kind of metaphysical connotation, and that's kind of why I zeroed in on it as kind of a full circle from where we came from, and somehow not closing the circle, but definitely encapsulating the life and history of the band, because it was almost 10 years since our last record. I don't know when we would make another one, but and it might just be that right out of nowhere I make a totally progressive record specifically to showcase the musicianship of the band, because we've done it all and especially in this album. I mean, I think every song has a small element of what we are all about. I mean, it really encapsulates the kind of story of the band, you know.
I concur with that. Listening to it today, I mean, being familiar with your career, especially the beginnings of it, I was satisfied as a listener and a liker of the Winger band from way back. I mean, I give it 2 thumbs up.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I went through the whole thing today.
That's nice of you. Seth, did you hear it?
Absolutely, I did. I got an email.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I absolutely did. It's fantastic, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Are you recording any time with Steven?
Yeah, right now the most recent thing I recorded was a cover that he wanted to do, and that's going to go as like an added track on a best of thing he has coming out, like a Stephen Pearcy legacy.
Mm-hmm.
We will have a follow-up to the 2 records we did on Frontiers, the Smash and Beauty of Thrill, and that's just something we've been working on. Obviously we got sidelined as well with the pandemic, and he had his own things going on. He had his version of Rat with Juan that he did for a minute, and that kind of went by the wayside. But it's pretty much, as far as I know, just, you know, Pearcy's solo band. We're going to be hitting it hard this year, probably doing more stuff, bills that you guys are on. I'm super stoked about the Monsters of Rock cruise.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, we will be doing definitely more recording, and we'll probably continue to do it over at Matt Thorne's in Burbank. I don't know if you know Matt. He was in Rough Cut bassist.
I know who he is, of course.
Yeah.
We've never palled around or anything.
We've done all the records there, and you know, to what you were saying, you know, earlier about being in the same room as Reb, Pearcy and I work the best that way too. Like we don't. I might come up with the riffs ahead of time and so forth, but when we go up there to get his vocals together, whatever, we work best in the room. Matt, Steven, and myself, and just backs to the wall, you know, do or die situation. It ends up bringing out the best in you, and things that, because you're on a deadline. I mean, you're there to work that day, and you got to do this. And you have the energies of both, you know, at least one other person or 2 other people, and you're putting your minds together for something greater than yourself, and you just do it. And
exactly.
the best things come out of it. And like you said, mistakes too. There's beautiful mistakes that end up being your favorite parts to songs.
Yeah.
It's being able to recognize those mistakes as being beautiful.
That's the key. You know, you got to realize when the universe is going, hey, what about this?
That's right.
You can
don't always go your way. You have to learn to.
I'm doing that right now. I'm overthinking the second movement of my violin concerto. I've got this, what I think is an amazing start to it, and it's come to it. It goes, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 15. I don't know. It's right here.
Somebody wanted to know what your inspiration is for the violin concerto.
I think for the LA. Violin concerto. There you go.
I'll tell you 1 second. It's several bars, and I'm completely stumped. I'm like, I can't go past it. I mean, by the way, when I write, and I've got my little keyboard right here. I'm not at home right now. I live in Nashville, but right now I'm in California. Right. But I can't sit at the instrument much anymore. I have to get away from it. Like, I'll sit down and play a couple notes, and then I find it very distracting to hear the sound of an instrument. So I walk away more than I do work on an instrument and just try to listen to what I'm hearing, you know. And it's I'm really having a tough time right now. I mean,
do you have a deadline for this?
My deadline is self-imposed. It's got to be done by the end of the year, but it's going to be hopefully performed next year. So it needs to be done by then anyway, you know, because you have to hand it in months before so the violinist can learn it.
Is this the last piece of this concerto that you have, the violin part?
It is. It is. I finished, but I need to reorchestrate some stuff and get it completely happening. You know, each piece, you know, you're climbing up the ladder trying to make it better than the last thing you did. I made some mistakes on my symphony that were like, I can't believe that I made those mistakes after having already written so many other pieces before. But it's just the way, it's the nature of the beast. You got 80 players on stage, and it's like,
right.
You know,
where does the violin sit for that? Would you, is that like the lead vocal of the instruments in a sense?
Yeah, any concerto is, if it's a piano concerto, the piano is the lead voice. If it's a cello, I mean, it would be the cello. Right. So it's really, and I was very intimidated by the idea at first. And then I realized that I've been working on solos with Reb Beats for 20 years. So I just was like, well, I'm going to think about it like that, because the violin can just go, wow, you know, and kind of do this kind of a thing while trying to make it, you know, very, you know.
The range of the violin is great, for sure.
It is. Surprisingly, it's not actually that wide of a range. The first note is a G below middle C. That's the lowest note they can hit. But fantastic instrument, a lot to learn there. I've been doing a deep dive into. I'm surprised, having written so much music, that I didn't know so much about that instrument.
And you don't actually play; you do it on a keyboard. You have to write it. You're using your keyboard, basically.
Mostly just my mind, and then I'll try to fumble out on the keyboard what to do, and then I'll program in a sequencer a lot of the stuff, because I can't play it that fast. So I'll just. I'm trying to get to the point where I can just more like think it and do it, because, like I say, the instrument, it's very, very distracting, you know, because you'll play a thing and, oh, that sounds so good, let me write that, and you go off on a tangent. It's like
too busy. It becomes too busy.
Well, you just get distracted by the sound of the instrument itself, and you forget about the structure and where it needs to be melodically and this kind of thing.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
It's higher minded, mate. I have to say.
It is. Well, I listen to so much music, and you don't think about half this stuff. It's really amazing, the kind of mind you got to have.
Not an entire concerto. I mean, I've done little bridge sections that were a little orchestrated, if you will, but nothing.
Yeah. Well, I don't look, you know what? I certainly hope I don't sound like I'm bragging or anything. I wouldn't recommend it for anybody who could sit. I only recommend it if you can't live without it. You know, does that make sense?
Like I love what you're doing, and you know, as I said before, that All Comes Back Around was very cinematic also, and almost had a little bit of orchestration going on.
Compositionally, I put as much into that as I would into what I'm doing in classical.
Well, it was not lost on me, sir. I appreciate you noticing. I really loved it. Yeah, and to me, I mean, I think it's, you know, for movie directors out there, you know, this is a song that could be in like a new Batman movie, or I don't know, some big movie or something. I don't know. It had a cinematographic
thank you for saying. I appreciate that. If you know any producers that are doing Batman,
Scorsese, if you're listening.
Does he do Batman? No. Who's like
no, I don't think he does Batman. No. He does the Godfather Batman.
Yeah, the Godfather versus Batman.
Movies are cool. Now you got film score writers that do amazing music, but when I tried to do film scoring, and I didn't do much, but I found that it brought the worst out in me. It was amazing how that happened, because it's a whole nother skill set, you know, to know what to write to a certain scene. That's a whole different talent, you know.
What about songs? Has Winger songs been in? I would imagine you've had some of your songs in movies and TV by now.
Come on,
none.
I think one or two at the most, and they were way back in the day. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, we had a song called Battle Stations. And I think in Karate Kid, we had a song called Out for the Count.
Nice.
And that's the extent of it.
Man, Piercy, though, that rat has got into some huge movies. Like, it's really just like, wow. I would be happy with just one film. I mean, the movie The Wrestler has some remakes of Rat songs that I did, but I didn't get a dime for that or anything. I want a song that I wrote to be in a major film so I could at least live in an apartment the rest of my life. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you know what the thing is if you just got to show up. I mean, like, you just show up, and write the music and get it out there, and just don't. For all of you people out there wondering how to get somewhere,
just don't give up.
Exactly. You just got to show up, do the work every day. Like I say, I mean, if you write every day and you commit to a certain amount of time a week, maybe it's not every day because you have to do something else, but if you commit to a certain amount of time and you just never give up and you just keep pushing, I mean, I'm living proof that it'll happen. I came from Denver, Colorado, out of the middle of nowhere, and I wanted to do the things I did. And then mid at 35, I was like, no, I want to do this, and I just did it because I put in the time,
You got the Alice Cooper gig was your first gig, right? Bass for Alice Cooper.
That was my first major gig. Yeah.
That's pretty dope. Was that a Cattle Call tryout or?
No, Bo Hill, the producer who did Rat. I'd known Bo way before he did Rat. I was 16 when he produced my a album for me or a demo for me and my brothers, and he was producing in New York after Rat hit and was getting some big gigs. He did Alice Cooper, and they needed a bass player for a few songs, and he called me up to do it. And I just happened to be a humongous Alice Cooper fan. And Kane Roberts is the guy I have to credit for suggesting that I put a bug in Alice's ear that if they go out, that I'd love to go on tour with them. And they called me up. And so Kane and I actually auditioned the rest of the band. That's where we found Ken Mary and Paul Taylor and Artie, the other guitar player that was Kane's friend. But that was a lucky gig. And, I was a huge Alice Cooper fan. Dennis Dunaway, Alice's bass player, was the hugest influence on me. Probably the most influential, him and Mel Shocker from Grand Funk and Dale Peterson from the James Gang. Those three bass players had more influence on me than anybody. So I knew the music inside and out. And I think, they probably hired me for my voice because I could sing all the high stuff. But
that's like being multilingual, almost like regular society, being able to do two different tasks like that. I mean, it definitely will get you the job in a lot of cases.
Yeah, singing is hard to come by. It's by the way, I mean, at this now, I'm like terrified to go on stage. I still love it, and I love the crowd response, but when you're the singer, it's like, well, what's going to happen tonight? It's not like, I can tune my guitar.
Right. Well, my voice hang in there.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's always a crapshoot.
Well, Kip, we want to thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
So much from the bottom of our hearts for coming on the show today, because I feel like the Chris Akin Presents show just like went up like 5 notches on the legitimacy scale of podcasts out there.
Yeah, it's bad.
Plus, I think now like our female fan base is pretty much quadrupled.
Yeah, it's through the roof.
That's hysterical.
We owe you a big debt of thanks.
And the new album is 7, and I told you at the beginning we're going to play the new song now. That's we're saving the best for last. So.
Good idea. Yeah, pre-order.
And I'll be seeing you on the Monsters of Rock cruise here. I'll bring my Speedo.
Blast, man! I can't wait to see you. There's always some activities that you should sign up for, like painting with rock stars, or
I saw that.
It's fun. It's fun.
They were all really good. I saw the paintings, and I was like, I'm gonna suck. I
gotta get on one of these cruises, man. I'm telling you, I gotta get on one of these things.
Well, anyway, my friend, it was a pleasure to see you again, and we hope you come back soon. Anytime you got anything to promote, please don't hesitate to come on the Chris Akin Presents.
I appreciate it, you guys. You guys have a good one. Thank you.
You too, brother.
All right, take care, Kip.
All right, we'll be right back. Hang on.